How you doing, Randy?
Good,
How's everybody having today?
doing good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Everybody's been practicing hard.
I'd say so.
Great class, I guess.
It's fantastic for us.
Since my seat.
Yeah.
And y'all still well?
Yeah, I think so.
Get through this semester. Summer.
Anything for the summer? I have a grandchild being born. That's my big summer plans.
I was over with my granddaughter last night, so that's a wonderful work.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's the bright spot in the family right now. You know, everything going on. Having a grandchild, an innocent, sweet person.
Yeah.
Quick introduction.
Yeah, that's really good. Students are doing it for
So we're gonna do it right here.
Oh, okay, good. Hey, Scott, how you doing, buddy?
Good. There's some goodies back there if you want some.
Oh, I might have a snack or.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, Scott leaves no stone unturned.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir.
There's a little bit of the COVID side of things that just kind of, you know, like down the landscaping and stuff like that. I mean, really, it's just kind of 13. It's more about. There's feeling to it if you're ready. Associated with something else, you know, we put all our entrepreneurs admit that you're ready to, you know, or overcome your distraction, just like so detrimental. I think some of us like went over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, looking good, Connor.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm happy it all worked out like this. This room, I feel like, is so integrated. It makes it easy.
Yeah, it looks really good. A family account, I assume that might be Jake.
We actually.
Wonderful to see you guys.
Family account.
Michael, nice to see you again. How are you? Hi.
So AP's all generated in there.
Nice to meet you.
Your PowerPoints are loaded. Sound good.
Good.
I assume maybe family account is Jake. I don't know. Account not here. And then Noah and Grace will probably pop on if they don't see them soon. I'll put them on mine.
Mhm.
I wonder if we'll have to wear masks in the hall.
I don't know. I mean, we're not among the universities so far requiring people to have vaccines.
Yeah, California, all the public universities are posted to all the students and faculty to have a vaccine.
Yeah, Cal State and University of California.
Let's go work there.
Well, I'm sure they have open.
It could be a package deal.
Exactly.
We would take Michael with us,
Yeah,
whether he likes it or not.
I'll pick San Diego as our home city.
That sounds good to me. I'll be living in your garage, given the current real estate prices.
Well, you'll be with me we'll split the garage, my kid's garage. There's Camilla. And,
I think that's Jake.
he signed in what?
Jake, can you hear us all right? Is that you? Maybe that's Jake's kids.
No, he doesn't have any children. I know of.
Oh, okay.
We're into the Ouija board seance portion of the Zoom call.
Right.
Can you
Yeah.
hear us? Are you out there? Can you answer a question for us?
I've got a screensaver that's called the Zoom screensaver. And it's just images like this of people like either sleeping or that they're on Zoom. And it's some of them are, trying to talk and the other person's yelling, you're muted, you're muted. Nice. Thought about trying to put that on various computers that are left with their logged in around campus.
I heard back from Jake via email. He's got the link and he will be on soon.
Thank you.
Stays on the entire phone.
Just make sure she comes back. She's gonna be gone for about 10 minutes. Before you guys come on. You kind of, I don't know exactly what time to tell her to come back.
Start that now. A little bit later. this week is mostly spent on campus and entire year.
Really?
I've been mainly working on my basements.
Okay. Oh, you've got a pretty nice spot down there.
Yeah. And it's nice, you know, not having to come up with campus. Nice little break. All right, Jake, can you hear us all right?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you, Jake.
Morning. How are you all?
We're doing great.
Good.
Hello, Jake.
Hello, is that, how
Les Hornmeyer,
are you?
doing well.
Good to see you.
See you.
Michael Stacy over here.
Hey, Jake. Good to see you.
Hey, Mike.
Jay Sparks is our other judge here today. So just informing here. We have this fancy new owl camera, so you hopefully will be able to see us as we talk more and more. It will focus in on us, and also you'll get that 360-degree view at the top, so that you can keep an eye on anybody that's sneaking up.
Got a great view of myself right now. A little meta.
You're looking
yes,
good.
You're right. You're on the big screen there. So it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz or something. So.
Are all the students in the classroom?
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
here.
Way in the back. Except for one, Connor's working over in St. Louis, and so he's joining us via the Zoom.
Yeah, I'll take you off the big screen for a second.
Yeah, I'm still in completely remote world here, so can't wait to get back in person though.
Can we start?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Randy Smith. I'm the director of the Center for the Digital Globe. And this is the 12th year that we've been doing this, this conversation, this end of class presentation. And one of the most beautiful things is the students who were once sitting out here are now mentors as well at different organizations and media houses around the country. So as I say, 12 years, and the organization here that we've set up is that we take on real projects from real media companies, and we work on them with a combination of both classwork and also reading, etc., but also careful mentorship with our various partners in the media. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce my co-partner in this, Scott Christensen, to talk a little bit about CDiG.
Yes, welcome. My name is Scott Christensen. I'm a teaching professor here in the College of Business, and I teach management and information technology courses. And this has been a great collaboration between journalism as well as the business school. And it brings together kind of a unique combination of talents and unique combination of problems. And so it's one that we enjoy teaching every year. Because we get to see kind of students work through these situations and get exposed to what it's like to be a consultant, what it's like to have to analyze problems and deal with all sorts of issues you might find in organizations as well. This is part of a graduate certificate program, so it's one of two core courses. The other one is Exploring the Digital Globe, which I teach in the fall, and many of the students that are in here are enrolled in it for the fall as well. And it's an exploratory course that really tries to answer what is the future. So how is technology going to impact our future going forward from now on? And what are the good and bad aspects that we might see from that? And of course, journalism is at the forefront of that, not only telling these stories about what the future might be like, but also is becoming a technology business in a lot of ways. And I think you're going to see that in some of the presentations here today as well. There's also a very successful undergraduate program, which Monica Fisher, our colleague, runs, which has run hundreds and hundreds of undergraduate students through a similar exposure to different topics. I also wanted to take a minute to thank our judges that are here today. And so they will be using a scoring rubric and trying to judge the various presentations that you see. So we have Les Borgmeyer, who is now working at Monarch Title, but if anybody is here in Columbia, they know Les from one of his many roles that has been in media throughout the years, and he has actually been a mentor to teams in this class before. And Randy and I really thank him for coming back and sharing his expertise with the class this semester as well. Jay Sparks is also somebody people here in Columbia recognize, but sometimes from being at a bar somewhere, but has a long history of entrepreneurship and is now the kind of entrepreneurship coordinator, the catalyst, if you will, for entrepreneurship at the Ready organization downtown. Is doing a great work there. And Michael Stacy is, I don't remember his official title, but has always been with the Missouri Business Alert, I believe, since he was actually in this class, maybe when it got started. And so has been a key figure in Missouri news, especially business news. So we thank all of them for taking their time this morning to help us with this.
Why don't we go ahead and get started and with the AP team, come on down here. Introducing the AP team is Jake Kreinberg, who was in this class, when was it? Circa 2014, 2013. And then went on to the AP, where he's had a variety of different jobs and has worked himself higher and higher in the organization and in charge of products and other things that are going on there. So it's really an honor to have Jake as a mentor and also have him here with us today. So thank you, Jake. You want to go ahead and introduce the team and the challenge as well?
Yes, so hi everyone. Thank you for attending today. Thank you, Randy, for the introduction. So as Randy mentioned, my name is Jake Kreinberg. I'm a senior product manager at the Associated Press. I'm also a graduate of the J School and the Business School and of this class. So I'll just say a few words and then I'll pass it over to the team who's been working on this project all semester. So their work really represents the latest installment of a partnership between the school and the AP. As Randy mentioned, this class has been going on for about a dozen years now, and I think AP is the only organization that has been a part of it each and every year. So students have worked in the past on projects for us ranging from the AP style book to certain verticals like health and science coverage, to the AP Top 25 and our polls for college sports. And a few of these students over the years, as Randy alluded to, have gone on to actually work full time for the AP, which is great. And that brings us back to today and this spring, where the team was tasked with helping us understand how to approach building a Missouri network for AP Story Share, which the team will go into more detail about, and where there may be more opportunities for us in the state. So with that, I'll pass it over to the team and Emmy to start the presentation.
Since we're on Zoom, I'll have a small change over here. Very good, excellent.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Jake, for the introduction. We'll start with also introductions ourselves. My name is Emmy Lucas. I'm a graduate student here at the Journalism School at the University of Missouri from the Chicagoland area.
I'm Yihan. I'm a graduate student in strategic communication from China.
I'm Yang Tang, business student in Mizzou and also come from China.
And these last two faces up here, Jake, he introduced himself as a senior product manager with the AP. And then we also worked with Randy Smith, our professor. And so these two really were our mentors throughout the semester in this project. And so, like Jake mentioned, we were working with the Associated Press. And so we'll just kind of give you an overview of what we're going to go over today. First, we're going to set up what's going on, what we're seeing in the state. We're going to go into our market research and then into our recommendations to really build out the Missouri network of AP Story Share. And so, like Jake said, our assignment from the AP was to create that Missouri network of Story Share, their content sharing, story sharing platform. And so to do so, we held focus groups, sent out a survey, held interviews, did different market research in order to really gather our recommendations to create the Missouri network of AP Story Share. And so Yang will give us an overview of the company itself.
Thank you. And I'll introduce some background information of AP and StoryShare. And AP, headquartered in New York City, has a long history. It was founded even before the Civil War. And AP, as a nonprofit news organization, AP is well known all over the world for its trustworthy and high-quality news in all formats. And AP StoryShare is obviously a platform of AP, and it helps newsrooms to collaborate and share stories with each other. And currently, StoryShare already has pilot networks in 3 states and plans to expand to others. And this is a screenshot of the current AP StoryShare website. And newsrooms can log in, upload, and share news, pictures, and videos with each other.
Yeah, so we'll go into what we're seeing today across the US and especially in Missouri. What we're seeing is that collaboration truly is happening everywhere. Collaboration is the future. We're seeing the School of Journalism in Mid-Missouri collaborate with different newsrooms over in Kansas City, and then in Mid-Missouri with Business Alert. Down in Springfield, we're also seeing some newsrooms in St. Louis also work with others throughout the state. And so for AP to really come in and create their Missouri network of StoryShare, the time truly is now to really organize and formalize those informal and maybe formal collaborations that are already existing today. And so while we're talking about what's going on today, let's also talk about what's missing. So in towns up north like Kirksville or Maryville, a lot of these communities don't currently have a newspaper. They're not being covered by a newsroom. And oftentimes in Boot Heel in the south, this same picture is often being mirrored. And so news deserts are popping up across the state as well as the US. And so news deserts, as defined by Pointer, are those communities in which are not being covered by newsrooms. And this leads to information gaps and so on. And so where StoryShare can really come into this is to plug in those information gaps and fill in those news deserts that are popping up across the nation, but especially Missouri as well. And so now we'll walk us through our market research. So we held various interviews, surveys, a focus group, and so there are a couple interviews that our team wanted to highlight today. So first, this is Mark Horvit. He is a professor at the university and he runs the state government operation over at the Columbia Missourian here in town in Columbia. And so they are down at the Capitol. He has about 20 to 30 reporters on any given semester. And so again, they're covering state government, what's going on down at Jeff City. And so they also really try to get their content distributed throughout the state. You know, many of those newsrooms, like I talked about in those rural areas, don't really have the manpower to cover what's going on down in Jefferson City. And so a lot of times they rely on newspapers like the Columbia Missourian for their content. And so in speaking with Mark Corbett, he said in particular broadcast is something that is appealing to these newsrooms, especially because, you know, while they may not have the manpower to cover what's going on, they also may not have the manpower to create those audio packages and those video packages that newsrooms like the Missourian are producing. And so he's seeing that this is something that's popular across the state. And so how he's distributing his content is through the Press Association. So we also talked with their executive director, Mark Mawson. The Press Association has about 200 plus members. And so we're talking larger newsrooms, but we're also talking those small, rural, strapped newsrooms that I mentioned previously. And so how those newsrooms are getting their content is through a weekly email listserv. So it goes out once a week, usually on Fridays, and it has a list of stories for them to download, maybe a link to a Dropbox to download those videos or stories and things like that. And so in talking with Mark Corbett and Mark Mawson, the takeaway for StoryShare is really to amp up that content. You know, currently they're getting their content once a week via an email and it may get lost in their inbox. So for StoryShare, for them to join a platform like this, they're getting their content daily and it's really organizing that distribution for them that's going on currently. And so this next conversation that we wanted to highlight was with Missouri Info Corps. This was an initiative started up last summer. It's a newsroom started up out of the school by two endowed chairs, Kathy Kiley and Damon Kiso. So in our conversation with them, you know, they're kind of initiative that's seeing local scene, wanting to save local news. And so a lot of their content was also state government, but it also was mainly covering the pandemic last summer and getting that content throughout the state. And so in talking to Damon, he said a lot of the stories that really were successful in distribution and readership, and he used the word thrive here, had that local impact. And so an example of this is one of the reporters, Madison Zopek's story about COVID in prisons. And so this story was out of Missouri Info Corps, but it was actually picked up by the Associated Press. And so we're talking qualified reporters, qualified reporting coming out of Missouri Info Corps and getting picked up across the state, but also at a national level here. And so what she said made this story particularly successful in terms of distribution was because it took a national statewide issue and really localized it. So COVID in prisons was this one. A lot of these towns in Missouri have prisons. And so it really took a larger issue and a trend and made it local for these towns. And so that was kind of our takeaway with Missouri Info Corps, you know, localizing that national statewide trends or issues to make them really relatable to these newsrooms in these towns to pick up that type of content. And so also talking with Missouri Info Corps, they have given the green light to pursue working the StoryShare further. And so that was a big green light for the AP. And so they can really come in to formalize and organize their distribution that's going on now throughout the state. And so this last conversation we wanted to talk about was with Walt Potter. He is a news industry leader, and so he's owned a couple papers in the past. He's also an alum of the school, and so one way he likes to give back is through the Potter Fund here. And so over time, he's given about $1 million back to the school in various initiatives. And so again, in talking with him, it was all about saving local news and how can we help these small newsrooms. And so in talking of where AP StoryShare can come in, he said that, you know, the AP really needs to show them why this platform is worthwhile. And so also in our market research, we're obviously analyzed our competitors. There are other wire services and newsrooms like that, but rather than seeing them as competitors, the AP is looking at them as collaborators to join one platform under one community. And so Young will walk us through our market research on news consumers.
Yeah, our team has interviewed lots of newsrooms, associations, and news consumers about their needs and wants of local news. And this is a screen grab of our focus group. We talked with some news consumers in Kansas City, Missouri, and Columbia. What we can see from this is a hunger for local news and state coverage. For example, Kate Beam, she's interested in education news and wants more coverage of her local school board. But she can't get this kind of information easily now. And for Brady, it's sports. Others want more coverage on state government, recipes, tourism, travel, and so on. So from this focus group, we know that the desire for local news is apparent, and StoryShare could help to fill this need. And for the newsrooms, there is room for all kinds of content to be shared, distributed, and consumed on StoryShare. And we also conducted a survey. 231 news consumers gave their responses. We found that almost 91% of them get their news online and 61% from online. About half still via print. So from this means that the AP StoryShare could target newsrooms in all mediums and help spread the valid local news, and the newsrooms could use the content shared on StoryShare in various platforms and formats. So according to our research and interviews, our team has concluded 3 value propositions for AP StoryShare. Formalization might be the most important one because we know currently there is informal collaboration among newsrooms. They share news via emails, which is time-consuming and inconvenient. But AP StoryShare could help to formalize and expand this kind of collaboration and communication channels. And the second one is collaboration opportunities. The newsrooms could not only collaborate on sharing stories, but also beyond it. Which means they could have opportunities for revenue streams like newsletters, advertising, a special section, and so on. And the last one is diversity. It's not easy for the smaller newsrooms to serve their customers with limited reporters and funding. But AP StoryShare could help to provide this kind of resources and stops news desert from deepening.
Thanks. Yeah. And then I'll walk us through how we're really going to now build out the Missouri network of AP StoryShare. So we identified various recommendations to do so. So we're going to walk us through now and then what the future can look like. So first, we recommend targeting these various networks that are already happening. We recommend onboarding and expanding those existing collaborations, like the ones happening in Mid-Missouri, like with the School of Journalism, Business Alert, things like that, with the Press Association, as well as Missouri Info Corps. And then lastly, we also recommend looking at other opportunities like the University of Missouri Extension or LMU Healthcare. These offices are putting out a lot of research and different content. The University of Missouri Extension has an office in each of Missouri's 114 counties. And so they're putting out various content about what's going on in those communities, whether it's, livestock, raising the best livestock down in southern Missouri or north near Iowa. These offices are really putting out a lot of content that AP StoryShare can really jump on in order to amp up their content as well to share. And so second, we recommend collaborating and funding. We recommend continuing those conversations with the School of Journalism, with the newsrooms in the classrooms, and with potential funders, like Walt Potter, who maybe would take interest in funding different initiatives like StoryShare or with Missouri Info Corps. And so we recommend looking to pursue those conversations further. And so Yihang will walk us through the future and first financials.
So AP StoryShare is an existing project already going on in different states. Cost for AP to launch the project in the state of Missouri is fairly nothing. Currently, the management team is in New York headquarters, but we are looking for the local partners to be able to bring them in to further improve this project. Also, for AP's purpose of this project is 40% of the newsrooms in the state of Missouri are already AP members. We're not charging them to join the platform. Instead, we're here to helping them to grow long-term, more sustainable incomes. But for the people, for the newsrooms who are not currently AP member, we're looking to into charging them a small fee to have them to taste the content sharing via servers and potentially bring them into the AP team to become AP members in the future. So as we keep mentioning, the collaboration is the future, and we do believe the local content is the centerpiece of this future reporting. And as we said, AP is here to help the local newsrooms, and with a platform that have all the local content in one website, there are endless possibilities for the future, and we'll be here to helping the local newsrooms to be creative and come up with new ideas to bring more revenues. This is one of the ideas we have. We can have like newsletters, like collaborated across the state from different newsrooms. Like we have Branson is a tourist town in South Missouri, where the Titanic Museum located. They can create like food and winery newsletter that different newsrooms across Missouri will be able to contribute content and introduce the restaurant and the winery across the state in targeting to the tourists, to marketing and brand the tourism in the state of Missouri. And also because we already have a back end of this website, which allowed newsrooms to work together, we can build a front end of the website in the future to help the newsrooms to reach out to the audience to continue the conversation to the B2C end. This is the idea we have for the front end of design of the website. So AP itself can use this platform to bring the local stories to the national level to do the national coverage with the local content. And also local newsrooms will be able to use this platform to work with each other and do the conversation with the audience. We can receive immediate feedback from the customers, and customers will be able to just use this platform to follow the stories they're interested in. And like for COVID, that team will be able to use this platform to talk with the other newsrooms to like do the better state coverage. The project can be shared publicly or internally. Like the internal share will be like limited to the newsroom access only. A public share will be able to reach out to the audience. And those stories will be shared through the AP website to reach the AP audience base. But all of the story will link back to the local newsrooms that bring the traffic back to the local newsrooms website. And as we mentioned, we can do like copy-paste newsletters on this platform. Also, the clients themselves, like the focus group we talked to, like Kate, they will be able to give suggestions and news tips on this platform because then they are the people living in the community. They understand what community needs the most. They will be able to submit projects and ask newsrooms to cover what they are interested in. And also like Potter Fund, they will be able to use this platform, the National Fund, the Community Fund, they will all be able to use this platform to communicate with the newsrooms and journalists directly to give money to the project they're interested in. And the newsrooms who need money to cover certain topics will be able to use this platform to do crowdfunding, to ask the community to contribute to help them to better cover the stories. Those platform will also be able to merge to the mobile device, have the audience to follow the local stories, nearby stories, and explore more topics. And with this type of things, like the topic-based newsletter we just mentioned, it will be newsrooms will be able to put ads into those newsletters and reach out to the audience, and it will potentially bring more like fund more revenue for the newsrooms. This is the idea we have for the future news consuming.
So again, that's looking at the future. And then looking back to creating Missouri's network of story share, we are again recommending to onboard this and then pursue further possibilities. And so with organizing and formalizing those collaborations, we're bringing in communities, we're plugging in those news information gaps across the state and those news deserts to really become one collaborative community that is AP Story Share, Missouri's network. So with that, we thank you for joining us today and we'll open the floor to questions.
We'll have about 10 minutes for the asking questions.
Get us started here. Great job. Lots of really good research by the team, and Karen, that you did your homework on this. I'm curious. You mentioned a variety of kind of different stakeholders here, from newsrooms to the news consumer to nonprofit foundations like Potter, etc. And I'm curious, like, as you try and roll this out and get users to adopt it, kind of what the sequencing is there and who's kind of the most important first user might be.
Right, yeah, through our research, we think, a lot of where the collaboration is coming from currently is through the university. And so with Missouri InfoCorps specifically, so we recommend targeting them first, especially since Damon and Kathy, those endowed chairs and those creators of the initiative, really did give that green light. So we recommend targeting that first. And then, they distribute through the press association. And so then targeting the smaller networks. And, with that kind of idea in mind, we think, more like in St. Louis or down in Springfield, they'll be bound to jump on the train as well.
So like AP is a B2B company, so definitely for the B2C side, we're mostly using this platform as like the communication between us and the audience, and using this platform to help the newsrooms, to help still a B2C, if it's still a B2B, and help the newsrooms to hear from the audience, gather more information and data.
If I got a couple of questions, and some of them relate to the financial side of things, but first and foremost, if I understand properly, so newsrooms have the ability to push their information down to AP through story share, correct? And they can only do that if they are a member of story share?
Currently, yes, it's currently only open to the members at this point, but definitely we're trying to use this platform to attract new users who are not currently AP members.
Okay.
And so that's where that $100 a month it would come in. So if you're not an AP member, they are looking to charge a small fee to those newsrooms.
You cannot provide or publish information, nor can you use the information off of story share if you're not a member or if you're not paying the $100 a month, correct?
Right, yes.
Okay, and where does the subscriptions come in terms of that level? And that's to the end consumer, right? On your video, it identified the clicking for subscriptions.
Yeah.
Is that through the end consumer?
Yeah, the subscription will be something for the future, in the future, like when AP will be able to open like subscription for help the newsrooms to bring in a subscription, to actually help the newsrooms to get more audience, to reach out to more audience.
So in terms of an overall financial goal or revenue goal that you're looking at, it's not as much looking at gaining additional revenue immediately as much as it is putting forth the platform for sharing that information and using that information on a Missouri-wide basis. Do I understand that?
All right, current point is AP is trying to help our existing members first to like just offer them something extra with the current membership. But definitely, because we're creating a new product, we're hoping to use this product to attract new members and seeing if there are more potentials in the future.
And do you see this more as focused on current print or news publications, or is it also something that you see broadcast organizations within the AP using effectively?
our current research is showing like all the different type of medias all will be able to use this platform. Actually, like video and the broadcasting might be one of them more than even than prints.
Right, the content is going to help people, newsrooms put out their papers, but it's also going to help them grow their online sites. And those radio stations and those broadcast stations are also looking for content for their websites as well. And so that's where StoryShare they can plug in that or use content from StoryShare to maybe generate a broadcast show too.
My last follow-up question, is all of the information and all the stories, are they going to be in an archival position so that different newsrooms, different publications and broadcast organizations can use as they see fit? Or is it going to be very, very present oriented?
We have a like project-based view, which like it's divided by like AP feature, like a local different category. And we have a calendar view, which will be able to say the project collaborations based on the time consuming. So like, let's say like Markova team want collaborating in state coverage, like in 3 days, it will appear on the calendar.
But as far as present or holding to when you see fit that content, the stories are being uploaded daily, but they are there. Say that newspaper wants to run the paper in the weekend and not Monday morning or something like that. They're available.
Thank you. And I might say, I was very, very impressed with your approach to your research, the idea that you have an opportunity to do interviews, focus groups, and the survey. Very, very good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question would be, with this project, like what does long-term success look like, and what do you estimate is sort of the timeline to achieve that desired outcome?
So at this moment, definitely like as we mentioned, like 40% of the Missouri newsrooms are already AP members. Definitely we want to hear the feedback. After we launch in the state of Missouri, we want to hear back from the newsrooms using it and trying to see if we can improve this platform in the future. And also that we're measuring by if we can bring in new members as we expected. And on the other side, definitely we'll see if this product will be able to create revenue for the newsrooms as we hope. So there are the three metrics we're measuring the success.
The AP, again, started with those 3 states and are looking to expand. In our conversations with Jake, he said, to roll out the West Virginia one, it took him about 2 weeks. And so onboarding and creating that Missouri network could be very like a rapid start at first to get those current members, like Yihang said. And then after that is when we'll look at, other potential revenue streams like those topic-based newsletters or special sections for those papers.
Is there like a desired conversion rate of the smaller news organizations, et cetera, in the state that if you're thinking that's?
Well, currently, like in all 3 states, it's already running. Totally, we have over like 80 newsrooms included, and the story they shared is not that many at the moment. It's about like 15 to 20 stories they share daily. We are expecting in the state of Missouri itself, we can probably like more than what they combine. At least we can, if we can beat the 20 stories a day, will be considered successful at this moment.
One other question for me would be, in your conversations with all the folks you've interviewed, what hurdles do you anticipate implementation, like what concerns or hesitancy were there on the parts of?
Right. I think, we mentioned and talk about like cash-strapped, smaller newsrooms, smaller staffs. And so in talking with the Press Association, their executive director, Mark Monson, he said something that may be a hurdle is to get those smaller newsrooms on board at first. And so, our kind of conversation and mindset is that when we get the current AP members on board and maybe expand a little bit more, more bound to jump on that train again. So I think looking to those really small newsrooms could be a hurdle for them if they can't maybe afford that extra $100 a month or whatever it may be.
Do you, I really didn't notice it that much, but do you propose extensive use of video in terms of the story share, or is it just focused on print stories, or how do you envision the integration of video and audio with the idea of story share?
Mm-hmm. Currently, you can update or you can upload photos and videos along with those stories. And so, especially with getting newsrooms like the Missourian on board, we think that source of video and audio packages will be more than what we're currently seeing. And so we do look to propose that more usage of videos and multimedia content. So it's with talking with different editors, that is something they're interested in. We've heard that from Missouri Business Alert. Multimedia is also attractive. And so we do look to propose that too.
Were there any conversations with, or revolving around even the idea of the gatehouse and that kind of idea of, these larger conglomerates are coming in, and that's one reason we're seeing a lot of the news deserts kind of emerging now?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something the AP, is story share meant to get into that and kind of tackle that so that the smaller municipalities can have that? Is that where story share shines, or is that a hurdle?
Right, it's definitely something of discussion, and that's why I think there's such an urgency to create that network right now to onboard those, because that's what we are seeing, right? Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So next we'll have Team Harkin will come up and we'll get them settled, and then we'll have the introduction from either Grace or Camilla. We have both here tonight, or this morning. Does it seem like tonight? That's what happens when you get up before you.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I didn't hear. I think I should introduce the team. Hi, my name is Camila Jambulatova. I'm a marketing coordinator for Harkin. I also am a Mizzou grad. And I took this class back in 2017, so it's good to be back. A little bit more about Harkin. Harkin is engagement consulting startup, and we're really focusing on building community and focusing on listening. We have both a consulting arm. We also have some tech solutions, and we really believe that pivoting to people can help your company grow revenue and results. We historically mainly served media and journalism companies, but have since expanded. We merged with Switchboard, which is a community management platform that has a very similar value prop and a similar mission last summer. And since then, we've been able to expand to the higher education space. We also serve some nonprofits and public government groups. Me and my colleague Grace Alexander on this call, we've been working with the team of students in the past few months to tackle the issue of how to make Harkin more sustainable for the future. And the team presented to our company last week, and we were really all impressed by their fresh outlook on how to better communicate Harkin's value proposition and what are some of the potential industry that we should be considering. But yeah, good luck. I don't know, Grace, you want to add anything in?
That was wonderful. Good luck.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it and have obviously enjoyed so much working with Harkin over the past semester. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. We are very excited to have you all here. is the, sorry, is the PowerPoint up?
Yeah, give me just a sec. You're doing great there. I'm just still slow on the technology. You see it there, Connor?
Yes, perfect, perfect. Wonderful. Well, again, we're very excited to share with you exactly what we've been doing over the past semester. We teamed up with an amazing company called Hearken, which means to listen. And in the world we live in today, listening is becoming increasingly important, and we are grateful to be just a little part of their journey. So introducing the team, we are made up of 4 grad students, Zishuan, myself, Lauren, and Justin. Our mentor was Scott Christensen. And on the Hearken side, we got to work with the incredible Grace and Camilla. Now looking at just kind of a little roadmap today, we're going to tell you a little bit more about Hearken and what they do, get into our market research, basically the challenge that we wanted to tackle, some of our recommendations, and then follow it up with a conclusion and questions at the end.
Thank you, Connor. So first, we will take a look at the Hearken overview, and we will basically provide more details to those people that don't know about Hearken. So Hearken is an engagement consulting company that was founded in 2015 based on the belief that everyone is worthy of being heard. Hearken focuses on listening as well as inclusivity. Also, Hearken is a women-founded, women-run company. Hearken is about intentional cultivating a culture of diversity and inclusion, and this helped Hearken to grow after its founding. And currently, Hearken serves newsrooms, higher education, and civic groups. For the newsrooms, they try to public power the newsrooms and convert the engaged readers to the financial backers. And for the higher education, they try to align the alumni and student needs with institutional priorities. And for the civic groups, they try to preserve democracy through community engagement. And after the project, this is the value that we perceived. So using its technology and consulting offerings, Hearken tried to help your clients listen better and use insights to activate and scale the networks, embedded engagement into operations to grow and innovate. This helps the client build up a competitive advantage by engaging with the audiences and communities. For the offerings, currently Hearken has their own consulting teams that can react and implement strategies quickly. And this is provided by 2 types of technologies. One is the EMS system. It's a system that allows the client to post forms with specific questions and prompts that by allowing the community to engage with. The other one is the CMS, is Switchboard, and it is a platform that allows the people within the community to post their asks and offers. And essentially, it tells what people need and who can provide that specific need. And here we have our example of the main technology, the EMS system. As you can see, you can post your question there, your contact info. It's super clear and easy to use. And after they collecting all those information and voting round, they will decide which topic they will keep investigating. And this can provide a continuous connection with the communities. So next, Lauren will lead us to talk about some of our market research.
Now we're going to move into our market research. And we first wanted to emphasize that we will be providing value to Hearken in 2 different areas, one through our market research and the other through our actual recommendations moving forward. So in terms of our market research, this consisted of 8 interviews with industry leaders, as well as our own independent research. We knew that we wanted to speak directly to Hearken's current target markets, including newsrooms, higher education, and civic groups, but also hear from a variety of current Hearken partners, as well as potential clients. The purpose of these interviews, though, was to pinpoint these organizations' pain points, what they're currently experiencing, and how the Hearken tool could be better implemented into these spaces. So we'll first look at newsrooms today. We had the honor of speaking with Bridget Lavelle from KY3 News, Ruby Bailey from the Columbia Missourian, and Mike Fannin from the Kansas City Star. We would like to note that the Kansas City Star is the only current Hearken partner out of the newsrooms that we interviewed. we learned that these newsrooms are seeing a high demand currently for hyper local news, which is news that is coming from the local level and talking about the local community. Secondly, that there are inequities in communities that are being highlighted as of recently, and we saw this to be very true for all of these newsrooms in terms of food insecurity, healthcare, and mental health. And lastly, these leaders spoke so highly of the value that is created when local reporters are on the ground speaking to actual locals. When speaking with Mike, we learned that newsrooms must be self-starters. They must be willing to start conversations with the community. We then moved on to radio stations, and thanks to our Harkin contacts, we were connected with both of these individuals. Both of these radio stations are current Harkin partners. So we spoke with Aaron Reynolds from WHYY and Sarah Taylor from WKSU. We learned that there is a high risk of creating silos when implementing new technology into, in this case, radio stations. Secondly, there is a need for more collaboration, more intentional collaboration between whether that's radio stations or other organizations. Third, there is a need for more guidance in the way of social strategy and how these radio stations can be actively increasing their number of listeners. We then looked at higher education institutions and had the privilege of speaking with Christian Basie and Damon Kiso, who are both employees at the University of Missouri currently. From those conversations, we learned that higher ed voices must be ready to pivot at any moment to be able to adapt to the ever-changing media climate that we live in. Secondly, consulting is the value, or if you'd like to say it this way, consulting is the secret sauce. So while technology adds value, it's really the personal aspect, the people, that is the secret sauce. And lastly, dependence on technology needs to be at a healthy level. If it is too extreme, if the success of your organization is too dependent on the technology working, then that could set you up for failure. When speaking with Christian, we learned that higher ed institutions must be able to make quick decisions, but also to figure out creative ways to meet any gaps or challenges that arise. And lastly, we spoke with civic groups. We spoke with Sarah Reed, who is a leader within the City of Columbia in terms of public engagement and dispute resolution. She shared that there must be active conversations happening between community leaders and citizens, that there must be open communication there and spaces to have those conversations. Secondly, that organizations must pinpoint the most efficient way to frame and sift through mass amounts of information in order to develop solutions. And our last point is that oftentimes conflict that arises in organizations is because of underlying structural issues that have gone unaddressed for a very long time. It's often not as much of a people issue, more of a structural one. With Sarah, we learned that trust is crucial. Trust must be built both internally with an organization's own employees and leaders, but also externally with the community, with the stakeholders, with local businesses. And without that trust, your health is ultimately failing. Now we're going to move into talking about some assumptions we made about Harkin throughout our project.
So after collecting those informations, we made some assumptions. For the financial part, we were not able to access the real numbers, but through the qualitative conversation with Camilla and Grace and outside research, we found that variable costs seem to count like a little portion in the total cost structure. And as the clients increase in the future and our employees we need to handle those clients will also increase. So the variable cost will increase significantly. And here we made our first assumption. We assume that the break-even amount in the future will increase for Harkin to even try to cover the short-run business. And the second assumption is based on their reliance on the funding, and which is true for both Harkin and its partners. And during our interview, a lot of interviewees mentioned that they rely on the Google grant to pay for Harken services and technologies. Based on this, we assume that Harken doesn't have a really solid inflow of funding. Besides, we also have the concern based on their inconsistent pricing on the services. This also put the profit inflow at an unstable place. Given those gaps, we assume Harken can benefit a lot by expanding their funding outlet to add another types of streams of revenue. And we will recommend Harken to branch outside to some larger corporations and for-profit organizations. All this lead to our challenge here. How can we expand and penetrate the market and make it more sustainable for Harken in the future? So next, Connor will lead us to talk about some of our recommendations.
Yeah, so building off of what Zishuan just took you through, we titled our recommendation as the Harken Business Initiative. We believe that for Harken to continue growing sustainably, they should target for-profit businesses. And we first kind of looked into this to see if there was any worth in the for-profit and how Harken would fit into this for-profit sector. And according to research conducted earlier this year, corporate social responsibility has a direct positive impact on employee engagement and employee performance, which in turn could have a major effect on the bottom line for an organization. With that being said, there are already a few companies that are taking advantage of this, such as Gallup, Delaney and Associates, and Viafora. And we wanted to stress that the main difference that Harken brings to this landscape is that most of these companies are very corporate focused and Harken is community focused. Next, we wanted to get into some of the examples that we were looking into, kind of jumping into some phases that we could see Harken rolling out. So phase one, we want to target small businesses. And we think the best way that they could do this would be targeting the chambers of commerce. And small businesses right now, the Chamber of Commerce right now, they're typically falling behind in technology, facing massive pressure to support small businesses through the COVID-19 pandemic. And there's increasing need for these companies to be heard. With Harken, we could see an increase in collaboration among members, more efficient and meaningful conversations, and aligned chamber agendas. So phase two, we wanted to look at mid-sized businesses, and we thought that hospitals could potentially be a great avenue for Harken to be used. Typically in hospitals, you see varying levels of education and employment status, and that all leads to kind of gaps and opinions of nurses, CSPD workers, and janitors in these massive hospitals are typically overlooked. With Harken, employees could have a voice. There's an increased need to address the added stress of COVID-19 that we've all felt, but especially emphasized in hospitals. And Harken could also potentially, it could be used internally with workers, but also externally with potential patients one day. There's an increased move towards patient-centered care, and hospitals are being reimbursed by how effectively they care for their patients. And we think Harken could have a very positive impact on that going into the future. Last is our phase three, kind of our big shebang would be large businesses. And what larger business is there than Amazon? So without Harken, they are under pressure to listen. They're constantly in the news for their poor treatment of their employees. With Harken, though, we could see an increased sense of belonging, leading to increased productivity. And for a company like Amazon, they could use Harken as basically a marketing scheme to, Harken becomes a low risk but high return investment in the end.
Yeah, so how did we come along these examples? How did we kind of determine what Harken value they bring? So we really focused on these three pillars for the value that Harken brings. The first two focus on what Harken provides, the accountability and responsibility, while the third pillar of revenue really focuses on what this project provides for Harken in the long run. So within accountability, this is really an internal focus from the organization standpoint. Harken really tries to help companies that they work with build their culture and become more diverse and inclusive and listen to their employees and listen to their communities. And so with that, Harken has some tools that they can use, help these companies develop better goals and use those metrics to measure the goals, to really build that internal culture of listening and engagement with the communities and with the employees. And so this is just a few numbers of KPIs that we came up with. There's a few external for consumer engagement and internal for an employee engagement. Now keep in mind, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just a handful that could be used, but there are many more that could be developed for company specific. So for responsibility, the second pillar, it's really the focus on corporate social responsibility, which over the last handful of years, the call for corporate social responsibility has increased dramatically from every industry, no matter what business you're involved with. And that whether that be diversity, inclusion, environmental impact, or pay equity, all these companies are under increasing pressure to understand and provide their responsibility in these areas for society. And so all industries need to be aware of their responsibilities regardless of what they're doing. And that's where Harken can really come in. They can really help these companies understand by listening to their communities and listening to their employees what the company should be doing and what they should be focused on moving forward. And so with that, this really provides just an additional revenue stream for Harken. As Dishwan mentioned earlier, Harken really relies on grants right now, both from their current customers using grants to purchase Harken. And so this really just provides a more sustainable revenue stream for Harken moving forward and allows for more future growth, as our 3 phases model showed. And so really for the pitch side of this is how Harken could hook a potential customer. So this would be Harken speaking to just say chambers of commerce, for example. And so these social movements are not going to go away. These are long-term concerns. We are in an ever-changing social climate, and it's very difficult for businesses to navigate during this time. And businesses are seeking that middle ground and seeking insight into the future, how they can really successfully navigate this difficult social climate. And so and they really need to listen to their customers and employees to understand where their responsibilities lie, like I mentioned earlier. And so this is really where the empathy and the culture that Harken provides comes in. According to emotional intelligence expert Daniel Goleman, empathy is required to work effectively with other people. And so Harken really can provide these tools and help these companies build their culture through listening and engagement with their communities and with their employees. And Harken can really be a cost-effective tool, especially for smaller and larger businesses that can't afford or don't want to have their own internal in-house group. And Harken also provides that they're not just the in-house group. They're not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what you need to hear, what your communities are really thinking about what you're doing. And so as Harken would really love to work with these companies to help empower their communication between the communities and employees to really help society grow as a whole. And so as Connor mentioned earlier, there was research that was conducted earlier this year that shows the more corporate social responsibility a company takes, it does lead to positive increase in employee engagement and performance, which then leads to a higher profitability for that company. And so why now? Now is the perfect time for Harken to get in this for-profit sector. This is, like I said, these social movements, they're not going away. These are all long-term concerns that need to be addressed. And so Harken can really jump into this time. There's no avoiding this time by businesses or by Harken. And so while businesses are seeking this middle ground and seeking this insight into the future, that's what Harken can really provide that. And so now along the lines of this, Harken wouldn't necessarily have to change their current target market a whole lot. This would really just be focused on expanding their market, expanding the horizons. Now with that does come the increased cost of increased employees, and they would have to have a management head over this part of their group. And so overall, this Harken can really just help these companies increase their social awareness and actually increase their brand image based on the consumers, based on helping these companies understand what the consumers need, and then allowing those companies to position themselves according to what those consumers and employees are saying. So we just want to thank you all for coming. This was an interesting presentation. It was great to work with Harkin throughout this entire process. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to let us know. Thank you.
Could, you identified with Harkin and their approach of the fact that they have an EMS and CMS approach. If I'm a company and you're making a pitch to me, and I get your idea of the idea of your, and I like the idea of Coleman and the Harkin Business Initiative, and you have 3 pillars very similar to many organizations and strategic management groups. Now talk about the triple bottom line, which is similar to what you're talking about. You've got shareholder responsibility, you've got social responsibility, and you have environmentally impact responsibilities associated with it. So I see how you make that happen. But one of the key aspects that I want to know as a business is Harkin simply coming in and giving me and running surveys digitally in terms of that listening process? Or is there something more that Harkin provides outside of just digital surveys?
Yeah, so I'll speak to that. Harkin has, while their technology is a key piece, what they can bring to these companies, that EMS is really just the tool that enables them and helps them engage and listen to the customers and the employees. But Harkin also, and this is what we really want to emphasize, has that consulting arm that could really be used for these for-profit companies, to where it wouldn't just be, okay, here's this form, you send out this form to your employees and to your customers, and oh, they tell you whatever you want to hear or whatnot. It's really that consulting to where they can bring in, say, from our experience, from our past experience, and from our experience working with other partners, here is also some of the stuff that we're hearing from other areas of the country. Here are other things that other companies are having problems with, and here, and kind of can bring in some of the solutions from kind of other pieces across the country, because they are a very nationwide company with the different partners.
So they're not coming in and having a more or less boots on the ground approach to where they are saying, we're coming in, we'll hold a focus group, we'll be in the community and understanding what the community is doing. They're providing the tools for the corporation and advice to the corporation to engage a higher degree of listening within the community, but it's all done by the organization much more so than by Harkin.
That's correct. That's currently how they do it, yes.
I would also like to add that their consulting, it is flexible in the sense that depending on the project that they're taking on or how big the organization is, the hours of consulting can vary, but it's very personable and it's one-on-one type conversations that they're having between the Harkin employee and the organization.
And from a financial perspective, I'm looking at it from my business senses or whatever. You identified that it is cost effective. I really didn't hear any cost associated with this. When you say cost effective, what is a range of cost associated with that? Or do you have any?
So I'll speak to that. Generally, right now, they're charging about $12,500 per year for the technology and some consulting with that. But that is also very, as Lauren was saying, very customizable to what the organization needs. They try not to have a kind of front end price to, that way it kind of scares some people away, smaller businesses, smaller newsrooms. So they really want to try to have that meeting with the organization first and find out their needs and figure out how they can best solve their needs before developing that price with that organization, if that makes sense.
So essentially they could have more or less different modules that could be monthly based payment systems. But when you say $12,000 a year, they're looking at it as an annual contract that they have with an organization to provide enough time for feedback and interaction. But they could bill it as a monthly approach also. Am I understanding that?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. And again, you did a wonderful job. Very, very nice to see that you had the 8 interviews and you hit all the different organizational groups. Thank you.
Nice job, team. Really creative solutions. You really laid it out very nicely. A few questions. First, just like a clarifying note. Is Harkin currently working with any for-profits? Like what's that look like at the moment?
So Harkin is currently working mainly with newsrooms and higher education organizations. But they have been kind of toying with the idea and thinking about expanding into like Chamber of Commerce areas. That's really why we included that as our phase 1, since that's something they've currently thought about. And so they could start out there and then just build upon that from there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And what, if anything, were you able to glean? Like, were you able to talk with the prospective types of customers that you're envisioning with this new approach?
So unfortunately, with the kind of time constraints of how the semester followed, we weren't really able to have enough time to reach out to a lot of those potential for-profit customers because this presentation is still a couple weeks before the end of the semester. So unfortunately, we weren't able to.
But we still do believe the bargaining power of our project is still like, there is a space for us to bargain with the customer. Because we're using our, especially our company culture as diversity and inclusion, and as Justin mentioned before, the empathy. So we find out there are not like a lot of the company, they use those corporate culture to help the customers to not listen outside, but also listen inside with different level of the employees. So we do feel like there is a space for us to get into the market, and we have the competitive advantage that the other companies, the consulting companies, that doesn't have.
And lastly, sorry, I'd like to emphasize that Harkin has a strong presence in a few central hubs, Denver, Chicago, Portland, and so we wanted to definitely suggest that they build off of that presence that they already have in those locations and branch off into the for-profit businesses there.
Go a little bit to the price point discussion that's brought up. Have you sort of quantified what the break-even proposition for this project looks like, and like at what point, like how many users or how many new organizations need to come on for it to be a successful venture?
For the break-even part, because we don't have like the real numbers, it's like the breach of the confidentiality. So we don't have the real numbers, but it's basically based on the qualitative conversation with this Camilla and Grace. And the cost seems like 630,000 per year, and the revenue is like 750,000 per year. So we would based on that number that we have and probably count in the future, but this process will be probably like mainly done by Harkin itself.
A lot of it would depend on the employees' hours that are required for the consulting part of it, and whether they're using salary employees for that, or if they brought in just say hourly employees, part-time or full-time hourly employees for that.
And for
that would be the main cost.
And for like this project, our responsibility is really to help Harkin to recognize their mission, that the human resources is kind of like a super important asset of those consulting companies. And when our business expand in the future, so our clients would probably expand, and it's our responsibility to help them to recognize the importance of variable cost and how can we make it more sustainable in the future. So this is what we kind of focus on right
now. Great job, guys. I think when looking at the two last brought up the CMS and the EMS components, and I know they just added switchboard last year. You know, what are the use cases there between like which is one more prominent in the consulting side of things when they gather that information, or is it really truly, you know, on a per case basis, but with each, you know, organization that they work with?
Yeah, so I'll speak to that. Oh, go ahead, Connor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I believe in the for-profit sector, EMS would most likely be the most efficient just because it is so customizable. So after meeting with these companies and having basically understanding their needs and what they think would be successful for their company, EMS is the perfect kind of tool for them to basically customize it for their needs. I think CMS could be used in a couple potential cases, but I believe it's probably more for once we would get into like the phase 3 type businesses, the very large corporations. Early on, I think EMS is the tech that we would most likely use.
Thank you. Any other questions, judges? Okay, so we'll take about a, let's see. Let's go.
I will unlock the classroom for the judges if you want to confer amongst yourselves for a little bit. We'll take about 10-minute break or so.
Makes good sense.
Do that. And there are plenty of things over there. And, here.
Thanks to both teams. I mean, you guys did just fantastic this morning. Very professional presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Where would you like to go?
I don't know. I'm not really quite familiar with this area.
Does anybody want to go? Like we're going to have, we could do that. We're also going to do something at Scott's house too. Not today, of course, but at a time to be determined. We could go over to Heidelberg, where I would think would be a good place to go. You guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
Down the street from.
Yeah.
We're not in the J school now, but isn't it just like down the street from the J school?
It's right across the street, yeah, from the J school. It's right across 9th Street. We could get a table there. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Like right after this?
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
I'm down. Let's go, let's go. Let's celebrate.
Yeah, we could go at an early lunch, 11 or so. Free food is all company now. Scott, you want to come up? As I said at the beginning, everybody is a winner here. Everybody did a great job. In first place, though, we have Harkin. So congratulations to the Harkin team. Congratulations to the Associated Press. You guys were fantastic, I thought. All right.
Thank you all for joining us and everybody that's watching via live stream. And that will conclude our event for today. We'll see you here next year.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.